All right, we will call to order the Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 open session of the El Segundo City Council meeting. We will start with a roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Keldorf? Here. Councilmember Giroux is not with us this evening. Councilmember Boyles?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldino?
Here.
And Mayor Pimentel.
Here, we will start with the invocation from Father Alexi Smith of the St. Andrew Russian Greek Catholic Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Boyles. Father Alexi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let us pray. O God, faithful companion and loving presence, who never tire of coming to meet us, here we are, in need of your peace. We live in times of fear and division. Sometimes we act as if we were alone, building walls that separate us from one another, forgetting that we are brothers and sisters. Sustain us in your spirit, O Lord. Rekindle within us the desire to understand one another, to listen, to live together with respect and compassion. Give us the courage to seek paths of dialogue, to respond to conflict with gestures of fraternity, to open our heart to others without fear of differences. Make us builders of bridges, and able to overcome ideologies, enable us to see through the eyes of the heart, recognizing in every person an innate human dignity. May El Segundo be a place where hope can flourish, where diversity is not a threat, but rather a richness that makes us all more human. Amen.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father Alexi, as always, thank you very much. Councilmember Wells, thank you as well. We'll start with a city event sponsorship recognition. All right, go for it, Brian. Is Bill here?
He is.
Oh, excellent.
We'll drag him in and get started. Good evening, Council. Hope you're all doing well. Yes, we are here to thank Bill for his sponsorship over not just this past year, but the many, many years. I've worked with Bill for probably 10 plus years now, and one of my favorite things about working with Bill is what he brings to all of our different events, whether it's beach balls and frisbees over at summer concerts in the park, first aid kits for our seniors. He not just supports our programs and our residents, he also brings different elements to our events, including snow cones at Halloween Frolic. So he isn't just a sponsor, he's a piece of this community, and he's really enabled us to grow our events over the years. When I first started working with Bill, we had 3 summer concerts. We've been able to bring that up to 5. We've been able to round out our sounded events. Our fireworks have a much bigger finale, and that's all thanks to Bill and his generosity. So he's a man of few words. So I don't know if you want to say anything, but so yes, I know Bill will say thank you, and on behalf of the Recreation Department and the community, thank you.
You have to accept this.
Thank you so very much.
I just want to say thank you, and especially the Rec Park Department. I mean, it's easy to sponsor something, but they are there early morning, late at night, and they all, especially Ryan's, very responsive, and Allie, they're all a great group. I just want to say you guys got a good staff and a great city. Thank you again.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bill. We're glad you like it. You can stick around. It's awesome. As it is February, it is Black History Month, and now with our special presentation, Councilmember Boyles.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the privilege of reading a proclamation. Whereas Dr. Carter G. Woodson launched Black History Week in February 1926 and set it aside as a time to study, teach, and celebrate the significant contributions that Black people made to American society. And whereas Black History Month affords special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about Black heritage and to honor the many Black leaders who have contributed to the progress of our nation. And whereas in 1976, as part of the nation's bicentennial, Black History Week was expanded and became established as Black History Month and is now celebrated all over North America. And whereas such knowledge can strengthen the insight of all of our citizens regarding the issues of human rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate the barriers of equality of minority groups and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination and unconscious bias. And whereas 2026 marks 100 years of Black History commemorations, 50 years of Black History Week, and 50 years of Black History Month, and is thereby noted in the 2026 Black History Month theme, a century of Black History commemoration, Now, therefore, the mayor and members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, do hereby proclaim the month of February 26 Black History Month and urge all citizens to join together in making this period of rededication to the principles of justice and equality for all people. And we're very fortunate to have our DEI committee member, LaRuth, right here to accept this proclamation. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this honor. Wasn't the weather beautiful today, you guys? It's a blessing to live in El Segundo. Just think we could have been shoveling snow, but we're here, so I'm honored. My name is LaRuth Wright, and hello to you, Governor Mayor Chris, and to the City Council members. Thank you so much for this proclamation honoring Black History Month. Black history is a story of survival, faith, and brilliance. It is a story of people who were once told they were nothing, yet built everything, who turned pain into purpose and struggle into strength. There was a time when Black people were not welcome into this city. Tonight I stand here to honor my ancestors and all that were denied a place in El Segundo, yet dreamed of belonging, of being here. So I stand here today in this room receiving this proclamation. It is more than an honor. It is a testament of how far we've come. As a member of the DEI committee and a proud 20-year resident of El Segundo, I stand for the voices that were silenced and the voices still rising. We stand on the shoulders of people who never got to stand in rooms like this, but dream that one day they would. This proclamation is more than a piece of paper. It is proof that progress has a place in this city. So tonight, we don't just accept this as an honor, we accept the responsibility. Because Black History Month is not behind us, it is calling us forward. Thank you so much for this honor. I'm so grateful to be chosen to receive this proclamation. Thank you.
Not so fast. Madam Clerk, how we got for public comment?
We have one person who would like to address the council, and it is not an agendized item.
Only one person?
Only one person.
We give 5 minutes.
All righty. I would like to invite John Pickhaver up, please.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is John Pickhaver, and tonight I'm here on behalf of a group of neighbors that were here at the second meeting in December last year where we spoke about El Segundo resident Carmen and her husband, who was detained by ICE on October 17th. 18 weeks from that date, almost 100 days, 98 days, he has come back home to El Segundo. I know some people in this room already know that, but I just wanted to share that publicly. And at that meeting, we asked you for your help. And I know several of you called down to the facility. Some have contacted Ted Lieu's office and other representatives. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of that group that came for doing that. I think the best use of public office is just helping constituents in a really meaningful way. While AJ is home, he is just released on bail. So this whole struggle, this nightmare is still ongoing. In 2017 is when he got married, and still is working toward a green card. So almost 10 years later, there's still things that have to happen. So I'm here to implore you to continue using your influence of power in political, personal, and professional ways to just help get this matter resolved so he can just walk about freely around town and just get back to the way his life was. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCaver. City Manager, any follow-up comments?
No, Mayor, no comments at this time.
Would you like to do any Hyperion stuff now or at the end?
At the end.
Very well. All right. Would anyone like to make a procedural motion to read all ordinance and resolutions on the agenda by title only?
So moved, Boyles.
Boyles on the first,
I'll second.
Keller for the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No nays and no abstentions? Sort of want to, just so we have the rare 3-1 vote. All right, consent agenda. Any pulls? There's only 3. Councilmember Boyles? No warrants, no minutes?
You trying to make this
All right,
lead?
I'll move approval.
Trying to make this last.
I'll second.
Pimentel on the first, Boyles on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Public hearings, we have none. We'll go to item 6, discussion of the City of El Segundo's participation in the South Bay Regional Housing Trust and resolution authorizing execution of a joint powers agreement. Mr. Chu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, Honorable Mayor, and City Council members. I just want to provide a quick update as we're considering this tonight. We just came from the Inglewood City Council, and they did vote to join the JPA. So we have 3 cities now. 3 cities had this on their agenda as an action item, and all 3 cities have passed: Lomita, Inglewood, and Hawthorne. The JPA states that once we get the 4th city, the housing trust is formed, so no pressure. But I just want to really just remind you all about what we're really talking about here. We're not deciding if we should have a housing trust in a vacuum. It's really, this all started because of Measure A in 2024. They legislated 14 jurisdictions to get funding to build affordable housing and to help renters not get evicted. So that was legislated in 2024 for $13 million. Of the $13 million, $7 million was going to go towards production, preservation, and ownership. Ownership as in first-time home buyer money to help first-time home buyers with affording housing. And so the production preservation money is about $7 million, and we're already currently getting that funding. And so, we're evaluating 2 projects that qualify for at least the CASA funds. And so we're already doing that work. So the question really is, it's not like what they did in St. Gabriel Valley COG or Gateway COG, where they formed the housing trust and then they incorporated the CASA funds. What we're asking is, should we be doing this work with the money that we're already getting through the COG, which was never set up to be an affordable housing agency, or should we form a housing trust now that we're already getting the money? So we're asking a slightly different question than the other COGs. Now, before I go any further, the most common question we get is, well, about dues? And so we're currently getting paid by La Costa to do this work. And in that funding is about $1.4 million for administrative costs. Our consultants are telling us to run a housing trust costs $500,000. So you can see we have more than double the amount to run this housing trust. So what we're proposing is that the very first year, we're simply going to do the La Costa work, and there really shouldn't be any dues for the cities. There won't be any dues for the cities. In the future, there will be a new trust board, which will be made up of our cities that join. So council members will be appointed to this trust board, and they will decide future dues. We have not heard one single council member that have said that they like dues. So the future dues will be at the discretion of the future board. So that's the dues question. Now, going back to the question, should we do this out of a COG or should we do it out of a housing trust? Everything you see in red are things we can't do out of a COG. And the ones in blue, we have to outsource out to a nonprofit provider or some other partner. The only thing we can really do are grants and rent and operating subsidies. We can't do development loans. We can't do construction loans. We can't go out and acquire properties and make them affordable. So there's a lot of things we can't really do out of a COG. The one thing we can do, the grants, developers actually don't like that because it creates a tax liability. And it also prevents them from getting federal tax credits. So it really hinders affordable housing development, actually. And so they much prefer, ironically, getting a construction loan or a pre-development loan or some sort of loan for the project. And we're going to want the third kind of COG to have a trust if it all goes through. The San Gabriel Valley Trust is already generating revenue for their area. In the loan interest, $230,000 a year. And this year, their first loan will actually be fully paid back, so they can recycle that fund. So it's actually a great vehicle to not only get money, but also keep recycling money to fund more affordable housing projects. We also get a lot of questions from some of our smaller cities, like, well, what if we don't do affordable housing development? Why should we join a housing trust? Well, there's a lot of other things we can do with this funding. Such as preserving existing affordable housing. We can master lease apartments. We can provide rent and operating subsidies. We can provide first-time home buyers assistance. And then one other thing, too, is income verification. A lot of cities have low-income housing stock that they need to verify incomes of the tenants. That's very costly. We can maybe do that centrally with the trust, although we need to find funding for this or maybe achieve economies of scale to do it. So there's other things we can do in the trust that can benefit cities. This is an example of naturally occurring affordable housing that we have in a lot of our communities. This apartment complex is owned by a mom and pop. It's for sale for $14 million. It's considered naturally occurring affordable because if you look at the rents from studios to 2 bedrooms, the 2-bedroom is below $2,000 a month. So that's below market in our communities right now. For whatever reason, these landlords, they don't charge market rate rents. Maybe they like their tenants, and they're kind of just doing this, as kind of like a retirement income thing. So what happens, though, is when these apartments go on sale, what we tend to get are investors coming in and buying them. And then they do jack up the rents. This one example, Invitation Homes, they're specializing in single-family homes, and they're 10% owned by BlackRock. They bought this property in Gardena. Now they're renting the house for $4,000 a month. And their business plan is to target the Western United States because we're a high rent growth area. President Trump actually spoke out against this just 3 weeks ago, so that's how big this problem is. And he recognized this is a big issue, where investors are coming into residential communities and investing in them and making things less affordable. This slide is just basically saying, no city is immune to the affordable housing crisis. We have about 2,500 evictions in the South Bay a year. You can see there's 27 in El Segundo on an annual basis. And who benefits from the trust? So I just want to remind people, we're talking about 100% affordable housing. I can't use any of this money for market rate housing. I can't use it for luxury condominiums. It has to be 100% affordable. And the people that would benefit from this are city employees, are essential workers, seniors on fixed income. They're the fastest growing homelessness demographic. And so they would benefit the most. And also development and physically disabled folks that are living also on fixed income. Those are the biggest beneficiaries of 100% affordable housing. And just kind of the last slide, one of the conceptions is that, well, what if the cities can just, we can just do it ourselves. We can just partner with developers and we can do this ourselves. We don't need a housing trust. The reality is affordable housing is really hard to pencil out, and they don't just naturally occur. In 2022, 2023, it represents about 10% of all housing that was built. Most of the housing that's built is market rate housing. So in order to get affordable housing to build out, you really need the housing trust to centralize the opportunities, to work with developers. And then at the same time, city resources are very limited. Staff resources are very limited. So the housing trust does provide a forum for development in our region. And then with that, David can talk a little bit more about the nuances of the JPA.
Okay. Thank you all. As kind of Ronson was alluding to, the mission statement of this trust would be to help our cities with flexible funding opportunities to really expand the ability to fund affordable housing throughout our participating cities. Just a little bit about the setup. The governance board will be one director right now from each member city. We will have two so-called experts in either homelessness or housing policy areas that will be recommended by the South Bay City Managers group. When it comes to trust staff, we have a few options that I think we're leaving open to the trust board since it's ultimately their organization. One is we could be COG employees, so they could hire the COG staff to do the work. One would be a consulting firm. Some of the other trusts, Gateway, they do that type of work. And then one would be their own employees. The COG is kind of holding back from making any official recommendation on what the trust board should do, since ultimately the trust board should make its own kind of governing decisions. These are kind of the really important ones. Goals will be to secure capital funding, do this all transparently and sustainably, regional collaboration, local capacity, performance metrics. There is a trust brand that the other trusts have really kind of built out in Orange County, San Gabriel Valley, even Northern California. And then design and launch housing funding programs, which are really reflective of what that trust board feels is appropriate for our subregion. This could be first-time home buyers, it could be multifamily, anything under the sun that the trust board would really be interested in is open to them. There's no right or wrong answer to the approach. We've been working on this for a while. I think when Councilmember Boyles was mayor and maybe even chair of the COG, he was up in Sacramento testifying on SB 1444. That was legislation that allowed the South Bay Regional Housing Trust to be formed. Gone through the purpose. The term of the JPA is, like Ronson said, when the fourth city signs and joins. We're very close to that. We anticipate, hopefully by the end of tonight, we will be there. If not tonight, we anticipate probably by the end of February, we'll have at least 4 members. And I think this is probably one of the most important slides we'll get to, the limitations on the trust's powers. It does not have the ability to regulate your land use. It cannot levy or impose any fees or taxes on anything. Cannot require or incentivize inclusionary zoning. It can't require parties to dedicate or assign funding for any trust obligations or programs, so you all will not be required to fund any of these. Probably the fifth one is probably the most important. A project will not receive funding if it's not approved and supported by the member city. So the trust board will not approve funding for a project in El Segundo if you all do not approve of that project. Require parties to accept or provide any number of housing units as a prerequisite for joining, and affect the individual power of each party. So you all maintain your own local control over all of these programs. Again, one elected official from each city and the 2 housing experts. We are working with Senator Allen right now on some amendments to SB 1444 that would allow for non-elected alternate board members. The City of Rolling Hills Estates actually uses a former council member as an alternate to the Clean Power Alliance Board. He developed a really in-depth knowledge about clean power while he was on council, and maintaining his ability to serve as an alternate has been really helpful for not only the city, but also the organization. As SB 1444 is currently in law, it is required to be an elected official, so we're looking to expand that. And it also makes a few other minor tweaks to when the chair is elected, sort of basic governance modifications. We will be working with Senator Allen's office to incorporate the ability to hopefully fund moderate income housing programs it goes through the assembly. As it's currently written, it's only for low, very low, and extremely low income levels. We think moderate income housing is really important for home ownership programs like Ronson was mentioning, and until that that amendment is made, we're restricted to those previous levels. And if a city wants to withdraw from the trust at any time, it just requires 90 days notice prior to the fiscal year and payment of any dues that might be imposed at that time. As Ronson was mentioning, we don't anticipate any dues, but ultimately it will be up to the trust board. And I think that is it. And we're happy to answer any questions you all have on either the programs or the JPA itself.
Council questions?
Yeah, just so I'm clear. So we're talking about the Measure A funding, right?
Currently, yes.
So there's a tax collecting money to be used for homeless services. The way the COG is set up, they cannot accept or fund that money except for the two limited purposes of grants, and then what was the other one?
Rent and
Rental
operating
assistance.
subsidies.
Okay, so the trust would give more flexibility in how these Measure A tax dollars could be used.
Correct. If loan programs were implemented, for example, not only does the money go out, it then comes back to then go out again.
Can we have that slide up, please?
And then, Ronson, you mentioned about, the one of the benefits of joining is to get access to the technical expertise needed to not only fund these things, but also to administer and run them, correct?
Right.
So we have a project here in town, 260 some units, 10% will be affordable. There's going to be considerable time screening applicants, verifying income through the life of that low income restriction.
Right.
So the trust would be able to basically do that work for the city, even though it's our housing
Yeah.
project, it's our requirement that these units be low income. We can then defer to the expertise of the trust to actually implement and administer that program.
Yeah, I just want to be really clear on that, though. So we're interested in doing that because I'm actually really interested in getting control of some of those low-income housing units for our homelessness programs. The only caveat to that is that we currently, so our La Casa funds can be used to verify that income verification on La Casa projects. So if you already have existing projects, we need to find funding to do that administration work. Or a lot of our cities are currently doing it, and so every city doing it on their own is very expensive. So we can, through the trust, achieve economies of scale, and maybe we can do it for all the cities, and so the cities don't have to do it themselves.
But for pre-existing projects, are they able to join? Or does it have to be something after inception of this?
They wouldn't be able to join, so we would have to find another mechanism to be able to administer to those pre-existing projects.
I'm going to jump in with one other question on that. When does something become a pre-existing project? If this thing is not broken ground yet, does it exist because it has a development agreement?
It's really if they're using the cost of funds, and so once they've used the cost of funds, we can use those funds to then administer to the operating expenses through the life of the program.
Sorry about that. Continue.
No, that's fine. I think we need to flesh it out. So the project, we have no La Casa funds. But as part of our development agreement, we negotiated with the developer to say, hey, we need some low-income housing. Would we be able to use the trust expertise to administer that once it comes online 2, 3, 4 years from now? Or is it something where we're going, since you're already needing to amend the Senate bill that set this up to give us more flexibility of procedurally who is a board member and the rules, is that something we need to discuss now about how can we use these Measure A funds to help defer the costs cities have to incur on just administering and overseeing and supervising our low-income housing so that we know it's actually being used effectively?
I don't think the bill needs to be amended. That power's already in the trust.
Okay.
I think the most important part is how to fund it. Because the project doesn't have existing projects, they don't have Measure A, can't use Measure A funds to pay for that. We would have to find another source to fund the verifications for those units.
But would that be in the discretion of the board that we're setting up here? So we set up the board, we elect the individuals, and then those individuals will figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. Many of our cities are interested in that part of it, and we're interested too. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Housing Trust Fund is broader than just applying Measure A funds to projects.
Yeah.
Got it.
When we started this, Measure A did not even exist, and that's kind of why we're doing it a little bit backwards compared to the other two trusts. We started this kind of modeled after San Gabriel Valley. They started with, I think, a $50 million earmark from the state to get their programs up and running. And so we're hoping that when the state's budget's looking a little rosier, or federal government too, that those opportunities will be open to our trust if it's formed, and those that may be more unrestricted funds could go to something like this.
Yeah, and there's funding out there. So there's a REAP grant right now that we just missed because we don't have a housing trust. But there's state funding and federal funding that we can go after once we have a housing trust.
From a procedural, a developer or an individual or a city would come to the trust and ask for a loan or a subsidy for a specific project potentially? And does that function like a council where there's a public vote taken, or is that staff? You know, that's really what you're paying the housing staff to do.
I think from the process standpoint, there'd be like a NOFA that funding's available for these kinds of projects. It may be a certain, depending on the funding source, a certain type of project at that point, but it would all be publicly decided by the public officials at a public meeting. It's all Brown Act, everything, so.
Yeah, and we wouldn't do anything about the city's consent, obviously. Right. Like, city would have to, you know, sponsor it. And the two projects we're evaluating now, that both cities are behind it, and they're actually looking to apply some of their home art funds to it.
Councilmember Boyles.
How is San Gabriel Valley's COG done with their housing trust fund? Like, what are some of the success stories? Has anything been built? Like
Yeah, they've actually, I'll go a little bit further along. Sorry, I skipped over that part. And I also failed to mention on this preservation one, we could actually go in and buy this if we had a housing trust. So we can preempt any investors going in and buying apartment complexes. But in the last bullet here, San Gabriel Housing Trust has a pipeline. Compared to what we're doing right now, they have a pipeline of 875 units, and they have built 927 units to date in the past, was it like 5 years? So they have a healthy pipeline, and yeah, it's going really well.
And the money's starting to come back into the trust. Yeah. And so those first loans that they've given out are coming back with interest paid. So it really allows us to recycle Measure A funds and make them last longer than if we were to just give out a grant, for example.
And also an example on the second bullet is it's really hard to pencil these projects out. This United Methodist Church in San Pedro, they started this project in 2017. They couldn't get funding for the past 8-9 years, and you know, to the gap funding that they needed, and now the project's dead. And the community was behind it, the pastor, the church was behind it, the cities was behind it, and it just couldn't happen.
You know, you mentioned evictions. Do tenant rights fall under that? If I know that we do have tenants who have questions about what their rights are with the development or a rent increase. Is that a service?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm talking about the $7 million, just going back to the numbers. So we get $7 million for production, and we can also tap into the first one, which is the $68 million that La Casa holds. So we can partner with them to do more than just the $7 million. And where we say, people might think, well, $7 million is not a lot of money, but we're really just the gap financiers, right? The total we get is $13 million. So the 13 minus the 7, the rest of it's going to renter protections. So we can actually pay rental arrears with the other $6 million. And then we're also going to contract with pro bono legal attorneys for eviction defense.
Thank you.
Can you go back to that slide? Because it's not in our packet, so that's why.
Which one?
The one that lists the different capabilities of the trust. And it can do all those things irrespective of color. That's just to delineate the different parts of.
Yeah, the trust can do all of those things.
Yeah, the red ones we can't do through the COG. The blue ones we can do, but we probably have to, like a home buyer's assistance, right? We would have to maybe find a partner to administrate that as a direct service. So someone couldn't come off the street, walk into the COG and say, hey, I need a interest rate buy down for my home purchase. But we can partner with someone else. Now, if we had a housing trust, that could be a service out of the housing trust.
If we provide grants, does that make that property subject to prevailing wage? Does it become a public works project if we do a grant on it?
Yeah, so for La Casa funds, yes.
But even from the trust, what about from the trust?
The trust,
it would depend on the funding source being used from the trust. So
well, presuming it's using Measure A funding.
If Measure A is the only one that exists right now, then yes.
Yeah, so a question that we are getting from some of our cities is they have developers that are developing, just like that example Ryan mentioned, where it's 200 units, only 10 affordable. But what some cities are doing is they want to negotiate with the developer, like, hey, 10's not that much, can you do 20 or 30? And the developer will say, well, I won't pencil out. And so what we're asking La Casa is, well, what if they subdivided that lot and only did the 30 on that subdivision? They use prevailing wage on that subdivision, and the rest of it, they use market rate labor. Will that help? And so those are the conversations we're having right now.
So we don't have an answer from that. I mean, I think that before we discussed this a few months ago, we decided that would probably work exactly once.
Yeah, so I mean, so we're currently still in that discussion with the developer in Redondo Beach to do something like that. So.
But we could overcome that conceivably by doing a master lease agreement. So he's going to build 100 units. He does 10 affordable. We want it to be 20 affordable. The trust could subsidize a master lease for the other 10 and do a lease back at an affordable rate.
Yeah, potentially. That's something we can potentially look at to do. There's a little bit less money in the master leasing pot of it, but that's definitely something we can explore. Yeah.
I mean, would the trust in theory come up with its own proportional spend rules? So, I mean, you can see a scenario where the trust spends 100% of its money buying hotels or buying motels, right? For in larger cities. So we could conceivably be a member and not see a dime, right? Because those rules are
Similar to how the COG kind of apportions out Measure R and the money, there is an element of equity built into the funding rules, and if a project's evaluated and we see a certain city's received 40% of our Measure R funds, we try and adjust for that. So the trust board will ultimately put those kind of rules and restrictions in place, and being at the table would help make sure it's done in a way that I think works for each member city.
And the reality is 7.3 is not enough money to do more than a very small number of projects, but the idea is to go out and get additional funding sources.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
this is one existing, and there's other grant programs that you need a trust debt to do that the COG can't.
We can apply for that essentially on our own.
So this is a tool to apply for other funds.
and Measure A exists in perpetuity. So, I mean, that will not, I don't anticipate money being a problem for this thing. I would propose a rule, if it went out, that, and this is pretty far in the weeds, but that if this trust existed, that it, in terms of its limitations, I would ask that it not participate in surplus land act transactions as well. The last thing we need to do is try and repurpose underused public land and then have to bid against ourselves with a developer who is applying for funding from the trust. Because that's not, I don't think, you know, we have our own affordable housing money that we'd like to put to things, but not on our very limited amount of public land. Another question for you, the $500,000 for administration, that is right now just an estimate. That's not tied to a percent spend of what the trust will have.
Correct. That's an estimate based on other trusts, what would it cost to operate them, just a ballpark figure for budget purposes as we were doing the study the last 6 months or so.
Because there's no shortage of funded joint power boards in California that have people doing things we don't know what, who seem to live quite well.
Yeah, that's all based on comparables from other COGs or other trusts throughout the region.
Any further council questions?
Not a question, but I think, you know, as a city, we will never get Measure A funds for our own use. So joining or as a member of COG, we set up this housing trust. If there are no dues, at least now we have access to some technical expertise that would hopefully help us administer the funds we have. I think Measure A is mostly new ground-up developments. We don't have land where we can put a new apartment building, unlike some other cities may have. But I do think the benefits of just being involved so that we can tap those resources to help administer the projects we already have and plan future projects is worth it for El Segundo, even knowing most of those Measure A dollars, because of how that bill is worded, are not going to most likely be funneled into projects within El Segundo. I think we're better off be a member of this trust so that we can at least tap those expertise and help bring our projects up. So I'm in favor for it.
Further council comments? I will say I have concerns. You know, we were the co-authors of this bill that enabled this, and the whole idea was to allow us to regionally share both the benefits of employment and also have our contributions to housing be recognized regionally. And we were going to pool it in the original draft of it to allow us to move exactly sort of measure our funding you say around it. The idea would be that if we build a giant job center at 888 North Douglas and a big housing complex goes in across the road, that we could use some of our funds to contribute to that to make that a reality. I have concerns, maybe because I just generally have concerns about joint power items, because it seems to be where money goes to die, or it doesn't go to die, it goes to somewhere else. And I have some concerns about, even if we have limited access to Measure A funding now, I don't see that changing with this, but we could conceivably be tied into any number of the classic unknowable unknowns, just because this thing is still a bit amorphous. It makes sense for Inglewood, I know, because they have projects ready to go for it, right? I mean, and I think who else has it? Lomita? Lawndale's ready to go.
I guess that's the question, what's the out mechanism if a city joins and then wants to?
Written notification within 90 days, before 90 days prior to the end of the fiscal year.
And pay your dues.
Yeah, if there's dues. So if after the first year, fiscal year, so 90 days before, if you say, hey, this isn't for us, you can pull out and no dues are owed that first year, so.
Anything further? Do we have anyone who would like to introduce?
I'll motion to adopt the resolution approving the city as a member of the trust and authorizing the city manager to execute a joint powers agreement on the city's behalf.
That's a bold Dino. Oh, Madam Clerk.
Yes, a resolution of the City Council of the City of El Segundo authorizing the execution and delivery of a joint powers agreement creating the South Bay Regional Housing Trust and approving the membership of the city is ready for adoption.
And Mayor Pro Tem would like to move adoption. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Keldorf on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Me. Motion passes 3-1.
He just likes having 3-1 votes. Don't take it personal.
He's the chair of transportation,
I've been beaten over the head with this enough. Thank you all very much. Motion passes. So I guess we have a trust. Look at that.
Congratulations.
You can break champagne over his Tesla. All right. Item 7, a side letter agreement between the City of El Segundo and the El Segundo Firefighters Association updating the holiday pay provision in the Memorandum of Understanding. Director Reddick.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This item tonight is, it's really cleanup language for the Firefighters Association MOU. The Firefighter Association represents the classifications of fire captain, fire engineer, fire paramedic, and firefighter. So with the classifications that work in this unit, they're regularly assigned to work holidays. They do not typically get the holiday off as miscellaneous people do. So because of that, they receive a holiday payment each year on or around December 10th for 144 hours, and those holidays, that 144 hours represents 12 holidays, the city's 12 observed holidays. We recently received a copy of a letter from CalPERS for one of our employees who is about to retire, stating that they were going to disallow the compensation for the holiday pay, which means that that amount would be excluded from his pension check. So in order to rectify the situation so it is compliant with the PERL, the Public Employees Retirement Law, we entered a side letter with the Firefighters Association that specifically spells out the actual holidays that represent those 144 hours of payment. We ran the side letter through the MOU review unit at CalPERS, and they have blessed the side letter. The Firefighters Association President, Matt Goodenough, has also signed that. There is a little bit more cleanup language in that section of the MOU. The reason we're doing a side letter is because we're currently in contract. So if this is approved tonight, then we will send it to CalPERS, and then that will help rectify the one person who was going to have his compensation disallowed in his pension check. But most importantly, this is the first time this has come up. We've had people retire in the prior MOU with no issue, and the language is basically the same. The only difference between the old MOU and the new MOU is that we're going to pay you via direct deposit. So we do believe that CalPERS is running the MOUs through AI. So this side letter also retroactively lists the holidays for the prior MOU in case that CalPERS decides to go back and look at other people who are already retired and their pension checks and rework their compensation. So I'm available for any questions you have on this item.
Council questions?
I think I get it, but you're saying that really the only change is instead of getting a physical check, it's direct deposit. And now they're saying we don't give credit for that because of whatever code, da, 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 da.
The MOU language between the prior MOU and the current MOU, it did not list the holidays. The only difference is the old MOU said we're going to pay you. The new MOU says we're going to pay you via direct deposit. CalPERS is stating that this payment of these hours specifically needs to list out what holidays are represented in that payment of hours. So that's really the difference.
So the side agreement cleans it up, and the next time we have an MOU, we'll fix it going forward. All right.
Is there any danger of any retroactive liability that they're gonna?
No, because all of the people that retired in the prior MOU, their holiday pay was counted as principal compensation. This is the first time that we've received a letter from CalPERS saying that it was going to be disallowed. That's why we think they're running the MOUs through AI to see if they're in compliance with the laws.
Well, that's actually encouraging.
Yeah. There is no fiscal impact for this item.
Would anyone like to have a motion to adopt the side letter agreement between the City of El Segundo and the El Segundo Firefighters Association, updating the holiday pay provision?
Boyle, so moved.
Baldino seconds.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Boyles on the first, Baldino on the second. Passes 4-0. And Director Reddick, you are up again for the resolution and side letter agreement between the City of El Segundo and the El Segundo Police Managers Association, updating the basic salary schedule for the police lieutenant classification.
So this Police Managers Association represents 7 employees. It's 2 police captains and 5 police lieutenants. In the MOU has language regarding pay compaction between the classifications that they supervise. And the city strives to maintain a targeted differential between those of 5%. And the 5% includes their base pay and some other specialty pays, education pay, longevity pay, but basically 5%. The language in the MOU is under Section 8, Compaction Statement of Intent. And so the Police Officers Association had entered a new MOU. They received a 4% cost of living adjustment, which was effective December 13th of last year. So this item here, we would not be able to compensate the lieutenants who supervise the sergeants in the police officers MOU at a rate of 5% more. That differential is lower than 5% currently. The salary schedule there is no more room for them in the current salary schedule to be placed at a salary that maintains that targeted differential of 5% between the people they supervise. So this side letter is proposing that we eliminate the first step of the police lieutenant salary schedule and add a step to the top of the range so that we would be able to maintain that targeted differential of 5% between the lieutenants and the sergeants. And the police managers representative, the vice president, and the secretary also signed this side letter. So I'm available for questions on this one if you have any.
Council questions or comments? Seeing none, City Attorney, would you read this by title only, please?
excuse me. The resolution modifying the basic salary range for full-time job classification is ready for adoption, and you can take this in one motion by also approving the side letter.
Who would like to adopt?
So moved.
Keldorf the first.
Baldino seconds.
Baldino the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you, Director Reddick. I think that side letter addresses the spirit of our last contract with them, so I'm glad we got that taken care of. Item 9, the resolution updating the, boy, you are. Hope you brought some water. The resolution updating the salary and city contribution towards medical premiums for the police officer's trainee classification.
Thank you. So the police officer trainee is an unrepresented position. It's categorized as miscellaneous as opposed to safety. It is a position that employees are placed into when they attend the police academy. The police academy is of a limited duration. They're expected to complete it within 6 months. Once they complete the police academy, then they are appointed to a police officer position and become members of the Police Officers Association bargaining unit. In 2017, there was a resolution approved by City Council that linked the salary and health and sick and vacation to the police officer classification. They linked it, the salary at 80%, police officer trainee would be 80% of the police officer classification. So that was in 2017. I brought the resolution to council in October of 2024 to update that because it had not been updated. And as mentioned in my prior report, the Police Officers Association received a 4% cost of living adjustment effective December 13th, 2025. So this resolution here is to increase the salary so that we maintain that 80% differential offsetting the 4% COLA that the POA received. And that would be effective February 7th, which is the pay period following this meeting. And the Police Officers Association MOU also includes an additional 4% cost of living increase effective July 1st of this year. So this item affects the change for the recent 4% and the upcoming 4%. And a resolution is required for CalPERS to make this change.
Any council questions or comments?
A resolution
read on.
establishing a updated salary and various, excuse me, various benefits for police officers trainees is ready for adoption.
Who will move adoption?
Keldorf on the first.
Pimentel on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you, Director Reddick.
Thank
Your
you.
work is done here. All right, over to item E. Anything on committees, commissions, and boards? Any presentations? All right, reports, Madam Clerk.
I would like to acknowledge with great sadness the passing of my stepfather-in-law, Tom Billings, United States Naval Academy class of 1959, who passed away on January 24th at his home in Annapolis, Maryland. He was just here, had a really great time at Joy Around the World. He got to see where you guys do the good stuff and gave him a nice tour of City Hall, and it happened really quickly. And it's just another reminder to hug those that you love and even those that you like, because you just never know how long you've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilmember Keldorf.
Nothing for me tonight.
Councilmember Boyles.
Nothing, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
There is a community meeting with Hyperion tomorrow at the library at 6 o'clock. Please come, get all your questions answered or at least asked about Hyperion, their maintenance, and the recent mosquito issue. That's 6 o'clock tomorrow at the library here in El Segundo. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Will we have to agendize designating a trustee for the South Bay Trust that we just joined? And that, we can't just delineate that, or can we? Can we do that the same way we do committees, commissions, and boards? Or is it like vector control that Councilmember Keldorf is going to join?
I would think because Councilmember Drew's not here, he's automatically
He is our
nominated.
vector control. He's the mosquito post. Council, this is sort of broadly, one thing we've discussed is asking the Arts and Culture Committee to look at citywide historic plaques. So for things like, here's where GPS was created, or here's the oldest house in El Segundo, things like that. And I think that that sort of like sits in the good idea fairy basket, but doesn't really go anywhere. Does anyone have any objection to us asking them to do that? To look at some sort of recognition thing for historic pieces?
I have no objection.
I mean, right now we have like statewide things, and that shackles, obviously, that comes with all kinds of shackles on homeowners, but I think sort of things that designate interesting spots around town could be cool. And cheap.
Yeah, my only, I guess, question would be, that's not a trigger of something in the ordinance, which might be what we want to talk about anyway, just in terms of how those funds are spent citywide versus on-site versus, I mean, the way it's written currently, somebody could come to ACC and ask for a grant to do the plaque. I think structurally, I don't know if the city can say, spend the money on this.
Wait, are you saying because the ACC is the subcommittee designated to make those decisions, they can't take direction
Well, are
by
we,
council?
I get, it's where the money comes from to do the installation.
Oh, you're saying it's not art?
I think it's art, but that's not my decision to make. But I guess the question is, can we as the council direct them on what to spend that is art? I don't know. I'm not debating it. I'm just throwing it out there.
Can we direct them to consider our idea and tell us if the problems with it?
Yes.
Does that work? Right. So it shall be done. Went to the mayor's conference. Really, really interesting stuff. Just seeing how other cities do some of their tax agreements, transportation plans, a huge piece on how different cities are using technology to evaluate everything from road conditions to tree counts and things like that, just so they apportion their services better. So I've got a stack of links that I'm sure the city manager is eagerly awaiting my good ideas from that. But just really interesting to see how different cities are doing it, particularly in California. And let's see, we have Jazz Fest tomorrow, where we'll be hypothesizing a summer jazz festival in El Segundo with our smaller neighbors in the city of Los Angeles. Japanese Business Association is hosting us on Friday with the new head of Mitsubishi, who has a number of business interests in town. Will be sort of a welcoming piece for him. And I think that's it. I was too sick to go to the taxation meeting for League of Cities, so I apologize, guys. I had pneumonia. But you don't get, it was gross. So you don't get this. I know, you were right. I know. Dr. Baldino told me I had told me I had pneumonia, and he was right. And I did not become a super spreader. All right, city attorney.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
City manager, talk to us about bugs and stinks.
Yes, actually, first I would like to thank the Mayor Pro Tem for announcing the community forum tomorrow at 6 over at the library. Yes, regarding mosquitoes, the good news is that, and we've been in constant contact with County Vector Control since our last meeting, even prior to that last meeting, and they're reporting that there's been a significant decrease in mosquito activity. Right now, their trap counts, if you will, have shown a decline by approximately 66% during the last 2 weeks, and they'll continue to take those measures to get that down to zero. So that's the good news.
Can I chime in on that? That
yes.
If people who are sort of away from our heavily affected area, if they're having mosquito outbreaks, they should call Vector Control, who can do the spot check and investigate where locally there might be mosquitoes breeding.
Absolutely, yes. Regarding AQMD, since the last meeting, they've received only 3 odor complaints, and they've issued 0 violations. So the number's significantly down in terms of odor complaints. And then also, I guess Public Works, Elias can chime in on this, that Hyperion has notified the US EPA that it will not meet a December 31st deadline for the Headworks Overflow Bypass Improvement Project. So I guess the delay.
I mean, the important part is the headworks were what caused our overflow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just basic resources that they say they're lacking, and they're going to try and work with EPA to develop a new date on that.
But when we talk about EPA, that's talking about the discharge of water, untreated water into the ocean. That's really not an odor issue, right?
Yeah, that's that, when the headworks break down and they bypass it directly and just
Right,
start
and they
pumping
just
it direct to the ocean.
untreated sewage. So that won't affect the odor control
No,
issue. That's more
That's
of,
correct.
gotcha.
If you remember last time, their bypass system was under 3 feet of water and they did not have a crane to lift up the lid to allow it to go out to the ocean. How hard can this be?
In fact, their operational testing of the 1 mile outfall gate was successfully completed on January 29th. So that concludes my
1
Hyperion
mile?
report. Yeah.
That's pretty close for sewage.
That concludes
You're the one who serves.
my Hyperion report. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. All right, nothing left from closed session. With that, in a record time, 1 hour, at 7 PM, we are adjourned.